So, Coach, go a little bit into your history with Coach Hodge. When did you get? You're both JUCO guys, right? At one point, did it go back then? And when did you actually start working together? And did you see quickly that he had an ingredient that could lead him to higher levels?
That's a great question. I have a unique relationship with Coach. I've known him since 2000. I actually had the honor, if you want to call it, to coach against him when he was a player, assistant coach, and a head coach. So I've known him for over 25 years. We're sort of in the same coaching family. The guy he played for at Texas A&M Commerce, my mentor, Lewis Orr, we worked for Lewis Orr. So we've been in the same family for, like I said, 25 years. The one thing that I always knew about Coach was a competitive guy, even as a player, and he was a great leader. His team was really good, and when he became a coach, he just translated all of those leadership skills into the coaching realm. And, so we've been together for a while, or competed against each other. Then when he got the job at North Texas, he brought me there to work with him at North Texas, and that's the first time we actually have worked together. But man, it's amazing to see his growth over the years and to see him be the same person throughout his career, just a winner.
Does that junior college background for both you guys give you a different perspective, maybe even a better one, especially in today's world with transactional recruiting and people having to put together new teams every year almost?
Yeah, we joke about it, it's a lot of us, but yeah, we joke about that junior college, because when we was in junior college, a lot of times in Division I, they always asked us, how do y'all do that every year? Never thought it would flip back around the other way, but if you look, there's a lot of coaches, Coach Hodge, Steve Forbes, Grant McCaslin, Chris Beard, Mark Adams. It was a lot of other coaches that have been junior college coaches. So when you're at that level, you're always trying to put the best team together that year. And, you're always dealing with youth, freshmen, sophomores. So you have to learn how to, put a team together. And then you also have to know what the importance of retention, because it wasn't always like you was starting over every year. You would always kind of retain, the core of your team. Hopefully, you knew you was going to lose some guys that was moving on, and then you added, better pieces or good pieces the next year.
Coach, one of the things that stands out about all the players we've talked to so far, very well spoken, think about their answers, kind of analytical, have extended answers to the questions. Is that something that you all zero in on in recruiting because it's a reflection of things that you want on the court?
Yeah, families. Talent quite naturally. That's the first thing we look at. But the character of the family. Recruiting is a unique situation because you're trying to basically interview them. They're trying to interview you. You think you have the right fit until you actually get around them and spend some time with them. Those visits are so important, because it's very intense, about 36 hours worth of intensity of just constant eating, asking questions, being around each other, analyzing, and to be able to see that family nucleus interact together. On your campus or even in their own home. Back in the day we used to do home visits. I still, think that's important. It leads us to make the right decision in terms of who we bring in here, because it's about the fit. Everything, our success throughout our career has just been basically based on the fit. And when you have that family nucleus and a kid that has that kind of character and talent, that's when the special things happen.
I assume there's been a time or two where you got here, they met, and it was just, this may not work.
Well, yeah, every situation, you would hope everything in life is 100%, but there isn't. But, I think the less mistakes you make, the more successful you're going to be. We do vet our, guys very, our whole staff is involved in recruiting. So we always vet our, recruits and student athletes, prospects, to the utmost degree to make sure we're making the right choice for not only us, but also West Virginia.
Amir was just in here, and he talked about one of the reasons that West Virginia stuck with him was his visit here. It's a lot of same stories we've heard from other players, whether they were high school guys or transfer portal guys. What the heck are you guys doing on these visits that is making them so memorable for
I think being yourself. I think that, a lot of times, I tell people, a lot of young coaches used to ask me, to prepare for an interview, what do I need to do? I said, well, be yourself. That's the only person you know how to be. So all of us have, when Coach put our staff together, he was looking for unique roles, guys that had experience in certain areas. The diversity part, all of it had to add up. And he took his time, and I've known him a long time, but he also have known Coach Hurl. He's known, he didn't know Coach Phil a lot, but he knew other people knew him. But he kind of, Coach Randall, Yusuf, all of us, he put together a great staff, Sean. But it was all based on, if we didn't care about people, then we wouldn't be here. And that's one common ingredient that I know, knowing this man and what he's been about in how he lives his life and how he leads his family, that if you're not serving other people, if you're not about helping other people, then you can't work for him. And that's why I respect Ross Hodge. So when these kids come on a visit and they feel the organic, natural, flow of each one of us, it's not a script, it's, this place is a special place. It's the best place I've never been, which is what you want to create, that kind of environment in terms of recruiting.
System unique compared to others, or he talks about his path and how he followed Grant and Eustace and some of those. Is it, I don't want to say copy, but is it what they taught him, or has he put his own twist on things?
I think he's done a little bit of all of it. You always take something from somebody you work for. He's worked for some really good coaches, but he was also a really good head coach, and then he played for a guy, Bill Ford, that was a really good coach, and then he played for Sam Walker, who was a really good coach. So everywhere he's in, Leonard Bishop was his high school coach. So everywhere he's been, he's just taken a little bit and pieces from everybody and put it with, basically who he is. He's got to start at a young age. A lot of guys didn't get that start at 24 years old. Dr. Moffitt, who hired him, who I knew was an AD at Paris Junior College, saw a lot in Ross at a young age. So he took an opportunity, but he also was the type of guy at a young age that would ask for advice. He would talk to older coaches. He didn't act like he had it all figured out. So he is a combination of pretty much everybody that he has either worked, served, or he's lived with in terms of this profession, and it's just who you see today. A very competitive, very intelligent, very prepared head coach.
What made West Virginia the fit for the next spot?
Man, that's a really good question. The people, and this was a very difficult decision. I don't want to speak for him because I know his family. He's from Dallas. I'm from Texas. Most of our staff from Texas. But the relationship with Ren and what Ren Baker was saying about this place, Ren was at North Texas, and I've known Ren over the years as well. But what he said about you guys, like the West Virginia nation, was very enticing, but also convincing. And, I knew Ross moving across the country and then asking each one of us, did we want to go? There was no hesitation on our staff because of our relationship with Coach. So him choosing this place had to do with nothing. To me, it was about the people. He's not driven by money and all this other stuff and fame. I'm sure he's already kind of alluded to that in his prior press conferences, but his deal is about relationships and people. And what Ren Baker and Ben and everybody else has told him about West Virginia has been nothing but true so far.
Your first Power 4 opportunity, is this yours? And if so, how are the resources different now that you're here?
Oh, I think it's the best we've ever had, all of us. I was at the University of Houston at the first year of the American. We had blue bloods in the program. Louisville, who had just won the national championship. UConn, who finished fourth, who actually won the national championship. Cincinnati, so there were blue bloods in that program, but top to bottom, this is the best that any of us have ever competed in. The resources here have been phenomenal. James Dickey, who I worked for at the University of Houston, had worked here, prior and had called me upon us getting appointed to this position. And he said, Johnny, you'll be surprised when you get there. There's some really nice, they're way ahead of their time. And when I came here, I was a little awestruck. Not that's why we do it, but it's like, okay, we have the resources to be successful here. And then the people on top of it is just what really gives you a chance to win championships.
Sat down for the first time to scout tomorrow's game, where do you start? Because it's, so much turnover nowadays. You don't have a game of tape on them. Just where do you start?
That's a good question. You look back at prior games, and what their tendencies have been. Me and Coach Forte, we do more of the offense in terms of scouting. So we're going to look at their defense, what their tendencies are, personnel, things like that. No, it always, every scout starts with personnel first and foremost. That personnel, sets the tone. And then we start talking about, how do they play on the ball screen? Do they like to press? Do they like that? So that's kind of where we start at. Then we start prepping from that point forward. So, to answer your question, it always starts with personnel, then break down to offense, defense, and then what are we going to do game plan-wise?
Does this end up being the hardest scout just because they haven't played a game yet? So
These first ones, they're tricky because, they do have a new team. So then you're pulling clips from where they was at before. so now you're trying to figure out, like, how does all this come together? Because, sometimes your team, you won't really know your team until the end, or maybe it's Christmas. So early it's going to be some herk and jerk, in them and us. But then eventually it's going to kind of level out.
Coach, you mentioned that all the assistants do the scout. Do you like that?
I do. I think that's very important. The old school way of doing it, like one guy did everything, I just think that's so hard, especially, in today's climate. I think it keeps a consistent voice, me and Coach Forte, you can coach anything, but you constantly just look through a offensive lens, and then Coach Hurl and Coach Shaw, they look through a defensive lens. And it just helps him in terms of game prep. When he asks, what do you want to run or what should we do defensively, it just keeps it consistent from day in and day out.
Johnny, you talked about the resources here. All your time in junior college and Division II, I know this is nice. Do you miss some of the have-not days? You get so accustomed to that stuff.
Hey, man, that's a phenomenal question. When your why is what my why has always been, helping people reach their goals and dreams in life, it is a blessing, but I'm the same person, at least I want to say I'm the same person that I was at Navarro College, and Ross is the same person that was at Paris College. We don't get to cater food and eat at the nice places. We did a place, Whataburger. Has anybody ever heard of Whataburger? Okay, so, to kind of give you a quick story, a lot of people would ask, at Navarro, what did you do to get your guys to play hard? And I said, well, it was pretty simple. It was the Whataburger diet. And they was like, what do you mean Whataburger? Well, if we won, you got cheese. If you didn't, you just got no cheese. And, it was funny at that time. It's funny, but it's true. And then if we really wanted to get really creative because of our budget, if they won 3 games in a row, then I would say we'll go to Chili's. And a funny story, one time, I forgot I told him that. So we won the 3rd game, and we got on the bus, and we was headed back to Corsicana, and the guy just said, hey, coach. I said, yeah, what's going on? He said, Chili's. I said, oh, yeah, that's right. Then I asked my assistant coach, do we have enough in the budget? But that's kind of, it is what it is. But the resources here it makes you, I don't know, it just makes you feel like, wow, like there's a lot of people beyond you that care. And it's a lot of people, we don't take this for granted, that it's a lot of people put their money, hard-earned money and time into this program. And as caregivers of this program, I can tell you, each one of us is going to work hard to do our best to make West Virginia the best program in the country.
Also, you're not an old person. You're a 3-time Hall of Famer?
Yeah, I pay well. No, I've been blessed.
You're wise, you said. I imagine that's been consistent across time, too. How much... do you stop back and look at things and say, yeah, I've done this correctly? Not because you have 3 Hall of Fame honors, but it does seem like there's validation from others to what you try to be about.
Man. I wasn't ready for that question. I think in each one of those, I always think about the people who helped me get there. I think there's 2 types of Hall of Fame people. I think they did it by themselves, and then there's people that always think about the sacrifice and the commitment of the people that put them there. You start at home with your family, your mother, your father, what they've done for you, but then you move on to, your coaches, then you move on to your mentors in this profession, and man, my family, my wife, my children. It is, to answer your question, it's not like I think I've done anything, because I don't think I've done much. I just feel like I just didn't want to disappoint people. I never wanted to disappoint people that have sacrificed to put me in the position that I was appointed to. Coach Hodge has given me an opportunity here. I always laugh and joke. I'm not on my last go around and not last parade. I'm here to help him win. We all are here to help him win. Excuse me. And to say if a Hall of Fame honor, another one comes, that'd be great. But this has been a heck of a ride, man. Just so far, and I want to continue this journey on. Man.
You, a Texas guy, adjusted to West Virginia. You want to wait till winter to give us a definitive answer?
Man, you know what? I could probably do that, but it doesn't matter if it's snow on the ground or I'm iced in. If the people continue to be like they are, which I know they will be, this is a special place, man. I grow where I'm planted, and honestly, I always get this question from people at home: did you ever think you would be in West Virginia? I'm like, no, I didn't. But this is where God put me, and I'm gonna make it work. And it's been great for me and my family, my son and my wife that actually moved here. I have older kids that are living back in Texas, in Arizona. But no, we love it here. The community's been nothing but the best, man. And when I married my wife, she's from South Texas. We met in college. And I told her, I guess it was a line. I said, you marry me, I'm going to take you places. So when I took her from there, I took her to Corsicana, Texas, and she cried all the time, because she didn't want to be away from her mama. Then I took her to Houston. She loved Houston. We wasn't there very long, but she loved it. Then I went back to South Texas. She said, man, we went back home. Then we went to North Texas. She liked North Texas. So we're going to West Virginia. So every day I wake up, I say, see, I didn't lie to you. I'm taking you to nice places. So our family, wherever we are, where God takes us, we're gonna be happy. We're gonna be happy. We love it here.
Coach, when you're talking to basketball people and you're telling them the stories about coaching with Louis Orr,
Oh man,
do you have to correct people? Sometimes they might think it's Louis or the old Syracuse,
Oh
Hall
yeah.
of Fame,
Yeah, everyone. Yeah, I get that a lot. But those who know Louis Orr, Lewis, man. One of those guys. That just, Buzz Williams was a manager for him. Sam Walker, who coached Ross, was a student assistant for him. I was the baby of the coaching family, so to speak, so I got the last 8 years of his life. And you couldn't find a more impactful person that cared about you and your family. I mean, competitive now, wanted to win, Christian man, but when he crossed those lines, man, he was a different person, not just competitive, and always push people to see the best in people, but always push them to be better. He's touched many lives, man. He's 88 years old, and he is still rolling. He's planning a trip to come to West Virginia to see. He's a huge fan of Ross, even though Ross Hodge ended his career. I always tell Ross that was the last game that coach ever coached was against Ross, and Ross beat us 50-49 to go to the national tournament. It was 19-18 at halftime. So it was a dog fight, to say the least. But Louis Orr is, besides my father, he's done more for me in my life than anybody ever.
One thing I'm kind of interested in, so like when you guys kind of get settled in, so it's probably like a couple weeks in April, and obviously you got to start kind of rebuilding the roster. A couple guys come with them from North Texas, but there's still 11 other spots out. As you guys are navigating the portal, what was those early days like? I imagine it's kind of like maybe a kid in a candy store. Oh, I want this guy. But it obviously doesn't always work out that way. Just like, what were those early days in trying to navigate the portal? What was that thought process like? And then obviously what you guys ended up with, probably pretty close, right? I mean.
Well, it was a little chaotic in a sense, not chaotic, but because of the transition, Texas here is like 19 hours. So we were living in hotels. Our family was, I think sometimes a lot of that is lost in the transition. You're trying to learn a new place. You're trying to figure out, okay, what's our niche here? You're on the phone constantly talking to, coaches, agents, parents, and everything. Now you're trying to determine all the other business aspects of, can you make it happen, putting a roster together. You have to go through the old roster and see how many kids are coming back and, all that kind of stuff. So it's a little chaotic. The first year in any transition is always the most difficult if you ask any coach. It's about culture. You know what I mean? It's about, I heard Rick Pitino say that in his first year at St. John's. It's about setting the culture, getting the right kind of kids, and then you just build on from that. But yeah, it was film, watching this guy. What do you think about this guy? Did you talk to this guy? What did he, so it was it was sun up to sundown, basically. And it was a lot of discussions. What you as a staff, you may agree, you may not agree, but you ultimately got to find the right fit for, West Virginia and Coach Hodge. And I thought that synergy in our program and our staff really helped us get the product that we have today.
Say that, for those, just call it a number, 11 spots, but there's probably 30 guys, 50 guys that you look at, or is it smaller? I mean, I don't know. What's the ratio there, I guess?
Wow, it's roughly, probably 50 to 60. To give you an idea, we had a guy from the Washington Wizards come in, a scout, and I asked him, I said, I just asked him the same question you had. You asked some good questions, by the way. And I said, how many guys do y'all bring in if you have a draft pick? He said 90. Wow. Now, we didn't bring in 90, but this film conversations, it probably, I don't know the exact number, but I would say it was over 50-something, 60-something guys.
Any other questions? Coach, thank you.
Thank you.